Hey, I'm Justin Gaffrey, and today I'm going to kind of talk about and show you about this acrylic paint that I've made and how to work with some palette knives and actually how to work with this paint. I love working with a lot of paint. This might be a little excessive in this moment. So basically, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Gaffrey art material and the paint we make. This paint right here is a titanium white, super heavy textured acrylic paint. I designed this paint to hold stiff peaks like this, so when I'm working with it, I know it's going to hold where I want. And so this stack of paint here is probably about almost a foot tall, and I like the way it holds this stiff peaks. It's got this smooth, buttery texture that just works really well with a palette knife. It just glides on there, you know. So, and it's got a really nice load of pigment in here, and just the way it glides on the knife, it makes me really happy. So I'm going to kind of just show you some basic stuff on how to work with a palette knife. Okay, so palette knives. When I taught myself how to paint, I had no idea how to use a palette knife. And so I ordered a bunch of palette knives in the mail, and I just started working with paint to see how they worked. And so I kind of started to work the way they made sense to me. And this is one of the knives that I've started painting with, and it's actually the most popular and most often knife I use when I'm working with a paint, when I'm actually painting. So it's like 4 inches tall, and this is a good, you know, to work on small to medium sized paintings. So, but basically, let me just explain a little bit about these knives. I kind of hold them in my hand like this, these 3 fingers in here, and kind of cup it right down here like this, okay? And I need a lot of way to be able to swivel the knife, because when I'm working with the knife, I'm troweling, you know, I'm just pushing it like a plow, you know, I'm just pushing the paint across, gliding across, okay? This is the bottom of the knife, and this is the top. So I very rarely use the top unless I'm just scooping paint from one place to the next. So it's really important when you work with this knife is how you get it placed on your knife. Okay, so basically you want to get the knife perfectly rolled onto the palette knife on the bottom of the knife. And there's a special way. So usually if I'm working on a palette, I have a pile of paint here like this. And you can kind of see that the knife is now pointing up, and I'm rolling and scooping up. And you see how it's all beautifully rounded right here? It's important to have the paint on the knife perfectly to have a perfect stroke. Because sometimes when I'm working with something, I like to get that down on one stroke, okay? So you can see what's on the bottom of this knife is almost the shape of the knife, okay? So if I'm gonna put it down onto the surface that I'm painting on, see, it's just sitting there. That's just the weight of the knife holding it. I'm barely gonna push down. I'm not gonna push down, and I'm gonna slide out. And you have like a perfect stroke there. And that is like a perfect sunflower petal. So I'm gonna show you how to do that with color now. So what we do is we take our colors, and these are our medium viscosity colors. They're not super heavy texture, they're kind of thin. You get yourself a nice even amount on the knife like this, okay? And again, you're gonna glide it up over your pile of paint and scoop it up. Now you have this nice dollop. And still, it has that nice teardrop shape, kind of the shape of the knife itself. And so it gets a little slippery when it's wet on there, but now I'm gonna put it down and do the same thing. I'm not gonna push all the way down, like a third of the way in, and I'm gonna slide back, okay? And so I'm working over a white paint here, and so I could blend a little bit more yellow in there. And then, so now I got a yellow background. Basically doing the same thing again there. So this is how I do a lot of like petals for flowers, and even like a leaf, you know. So right now, if I want to make a leaf, get a little bit of, let's see here, some ultramarine blue. And we make all these colors here in-house. So we got a little bit of ultramarine blue and Indian yellow. This is one of my I like this green because it's nice and rich and earthy green. The more blue you put in, it's gonna get darker. So then if I was gonna make a leaf, I could use the same yellow, because it's okay if it has a little bit of the yellow showing through, because it gives a little bit of nice contrast. Doesn't want to stay on there. And so if I was making like leaves for sunflower painting, you know, I would be doing them like this. Make a little bit more green here. Nice kind of chartreuse green. So this knife right here, that's for making petals. And then if I was, say, working on like a seascape painting, or we're doing water or a sky, I'm gonna take a little bit of blue here, some phthalo blue. Phthalo blue makes a perfect like sky blue. You really, you know, just for an average nice blue sky day, it's just phthalo blue and white. Kind of mix it thoroughly there. I put a little bit more in there than I would typically do for a sky. So then I just keep blending a little white in there. And so if I was like, say I was working on a sky painting, I would just start smoothing it out, you know, over my palette. I mean, over my, what do you call it? My wood panel. So I'm just using this to spread the paint around, okay? So you can see I'm hovering, I'm not pushing all the way down. If I push all the way down, it's gonna show through. So I'm just hovering over the top, okay? And it's like, the reality is, there's a slight tilt on the knife. Because if I go down, it's gonna get stuck under there. So I have it slightly tilted up. And so say if this was a sky, you throw a little bit of white in there and just drag the white real lightly over the top. And that's the way I would make a cloud, you know. So I've always got this knife, as I'm moving forward, the back side is always a little lower than the front side. So it's not digging in like that, it's pushing up. And then when you're ready to make a peak, pull all the way up. And sometimes, you know, when you do that, if you need to hold it up really high, I just hold my hand back there and give it a little bit, you know, hold it a little bit, and then there it is. And you got a nice peak, and it's like a nice 3.5 inch peak, you know, if you were, you know, trying to represent clouds or water or something like that, you know. A lot of times I'm working with colors that work together, and I could still even mix all these colors together to make a green if I needed to. So that's kind of like a quick demo of the knife that I use most often. So these big old rounds, or little rounds, or even have medium rounds, like a lot of times I'll use this one to make a poppy painting. But right now, since I don't have the red open, I'm just gonna make it with some magenta. Show you how to make a big old flower petal with this thing. So I'm gonna take some of this medium viscosity here and get it kind of covered on the knife there. I'm just gonna blend a little bit of that pink in there like this. I'm gonna come back and get some more on there for my final stroke and get me a nice dollop. Look at that. This is one of my favorite things, is when you get this nice little variegated color between the magenta over the white, how it variegates. This is where I like to get a stroke done in one spot. And sometimes I see something like this and I don't want to lose this. So I'm gonna drop this down on there along the side, and now I kept that same thing, and I didn't know it was gonna do that, but I had to keep that, and now I have this really cool stroke, and I could still make that into a flower by, you know, just keep going all the way around it, you know. You know, you just start making these patterns, and you can fill that thing in the middle, you know, and you have this nice kind of abstract flower right there. But this round one I use for big flower petals and big dollops. And again, there's that color. Just don't want to lose it. So there you have it. This knife right here, kind of scoot all my paint on the side here. A lot of times if I mix paints here, I'm going to save this paint and probably mix it up as a brown, and I'm going to use it for like trees and things, you know, if I don't want to make something with this pinkish kind of strange color here, because I'm just kind of doing a demonstration right here. So this knife right here is one of my favorites. This is my second favorite knife, especially for larger pieces. If I'm doing a sky or water, what I like about this, because this is, you know, 9 inches or so, maybe 8 inches, I get nice long strokes, nice long smooth strokes. So take some paint here. Let's see. Let's go phthalo green here. Get that really nice glowy turquoisey kind of color here. A little bit of white in here. Okay, so like let's just say I was like working on a seascape painting. So like you just see like there's some more of that variegated lines in it. I mean, you got a little pink in there, and I don't mind that. I kind of like that. But so I'm kind of seeing like every stroke it just changes a little. I'm gonna always try and finish on my outward stroke. Okay, so if I want to turn this into like a wave with a nice big swoop, I'm gonna mix a little bit of phthalo blue and green to get more of a turquoisey color here. So a lot of times I mix my color directly on the knife itself, because it's important oftentimes to get it just right on the knife. You're gonna have a much more successful painting if it's right on the knife. If it's not right on the knife and it's real craggy and uneven, you're not gonna get a really nice even stroke. So right here, like say I was gonna make a big wave swoop, you know, this is what that is great for. Big waves, big skies and everything, or just spreading a lot of paint. But this is a fun knife when you use a lot of paint especially. And you know, I would typically go through a ton of paint every 3 months, so that's why I would use this knife a lot. But you can still get that same effect with the wave with this knife right here. So, yeah. You know, I was talking about how, you know, it's important to get the paint on the knife proper. So, if you're ever in my studio, we're in the clean part of the studio here where I represent kind of being in a house. There is paint everywhere. And one of the reasons that is, almost between every stroke of paint, I have to clean my knife off. Because if I don't, let's just say I was working in this pink and all of a sudden I didn't clean it and then I started working in blue, you know, I get that color and I don't want that color. So now if I was working in this pink, I'm gonna clean this off and go back into the blue, and my blue is gonna stay blue. So it's really important, you know, you keep a wet rag and clean them off, a nice surface that you can scrape it off mostly, but you really have to work on keeping this knife clean, top and bottom, as you're working. So you can, every time, because one of the techniques I discovered, you know, over 20 years is I like to get a stroke done in one stroke. I don't like to keep going back over things. That's a specific style of painting. But if I'm working on something, I want it to be, that's it. I want this to be, that's it. Because look at, and this is the point that I want to show you with this. If, I know there's a lot of other color on here, but you see how I pulled that back, and it's okay, it has the pink in there because it blends well, but you see all those lines. That is perfect, and that is in one stroke. Now if I try to go back and touch it and fix it, it's gonna look like that, you know? So that's why a knife, a clean knife, really important. One stroke. Nice variegated blended colors. And so you could start pulling in, you know, a lot of times if I'm working with another color here, you know, take some yellow with a darker yellow over the top, maybe a little bit of magenta that will give me a little bit of deeper orange. And so then when I go over that, you know, you got all those little lines in there. So keep the knives clean, try and get it in one stroke. And if you guys had any questions, you know, feel free to contact us through the website or through Instagram or wherever that may be, or Facebook, and I can kind of try and help you guys walk through this. This is just the beginning of everything I'm going to show you guys, but I'm basically going to show you guys how to paint just like me.